Hello, welcome back to the channel of nonsense and rainy Portugal. Now, I've decided that choosing an electric car is a lot like choosing a hitman on the dark web, because all people really care about is how much it costs and how far it will go. But Kia has just brought out this, if you can see it through the fog, we're in sunny Portugal. It's the EV3, and it aims to go further than its small electric SUV rivals, and also be cheaper than them as well. So in this video, I'm going to find out if it could be your only family car, but also if it hits the mark with precision, or if it wades into a pub with a golf club and beats your ex-husband around the head. Let's go before we get flooded. Right, now we've got that slightly weird, I'm sorry, murder analogy out of the way. Let's talk about those numbers. The Kia EV3 comes in two forms: short range, which will do 270 miles. That costs about £33,000. And then this long range version, which will do 375 miles on paper and costs from 36 grand, which compared to its rivals is going further for the same or less money. So things like the Volvo EX30, that can only do about 300 miles while costing about the same as this. Then you've got things like the Volkswagen ID3 and its sister, the Cupra Born. They can both do about 370 miles now, but they cost more than this. Now currently, if you watched my channel for a while, I recently-ish reviewed the Renault Scenic E-Tech. That can do pretty decent miles, about 370 miles as well. But to get that, you're spending about 41, 42 grand. So this is looking like, on a graph of driving range versus price, like the best one. But anyway, this comes in three versions in the UK. It comes in entry-level Air model, then it comes in GT line, and then the top spec is GT line S. Kia reckons only 10% of people are going to buy the Air version, which is a shame because it's got small 17-inch wheels. It can actually go the furthest, and then GT line adds a few bits and bobs, and then GT line S adds a few more bits and bobs, would you believe it, such as ventilated seats. But if you get a GT line S model, it's 43 grand. And that obviously takes over 40 grand, so you pay loads of tax for the first couple of years of ownership, and you can only get a heat pump on that top spec GT Line S one. So if you like your heat pumps, you're a bit stuffed. Now, we're only a couple of minutes into the video, and I've already mentioned Volvo a few times, so I've got to talk about style, which is why I'm wearing a peeled tangerine. But yeah, I think this looks quite sharp and quite different from the competition. To my eyes, it looks a bit like a Kia Niro EV and an EV9 had an orgy somewhere in Korea, and this is the result. It looks, well, the headlights are very EV9-ish. You get LED versions with these small cubes in on GT line upwards, and it's just quite a pleasant looking car. It's not outrageous, it's not really sharp or anything. It just looks pleasant enough in my eyes. This green colour is barely green. That's a bit like one of those bathroom suites that your grandma had in the 80s. But luckily, the free colour in the UK is bright orange, which is pretty cool. Now, as I've mentioned, the Air model gets 17-inch wheels and 19s on the rest of the range. But if you want the most actual driving range, you want the smaller wheels. You also get flush mounted door handles for extra aero. You've got an active flap, we love active flaps, don't we, behind here, which opens until you get to 80 kilometers an hour, then it shuts, so it doesn't need as much cooling and you get less drag and blah blah blah, more range. And there's a flattish underfloor as well to help keep the range up. We said range enough. I think we're done with that bit, aren't we? Yes, we're done with that bit. You're in a Portuguese bush so that I can show you the side profile of the EV3 because it's quite important. It's 4.3 meters long, which is actually 10 centimeters shorter than Kia's own Niro EV. But the EV3 has the same wheelbase as a Kia Sportage, which is longer, quite a bit longer than this. And the idea of that is it gives you more interior space, and also, crucially, it's not a bloody coupe. They haven't made the roofline go like that for aerodynamics, so people like me should actually fit in the back. However, what you can't see from there is that the EV3, actually gets narrower at the back. It's like a boat tail design. It's only a tiny bit narrower at the back than the front. That's done for aerodynamic reasons, to suck the air into your mum. On a different subject, this weighs 1.8 tons, which is actually quite light for an EV with a big battery. Should we talk about the battery? Probably should. Part of the EV3's ability to go quite a long way on a charge is down to the batteries you can get it with. As I said, you can get it with a choice of two. The standard one is 58 kilowatt hours and it can fast charge at 102 kilowatts. The long range battery is 81 kilowatt hours and that can fast charge a bit faster at 129 kilowatts, but whichever one you pick, you can fast charge it from 10 to 80% in about half an hour. It can also do some funky stuff. It can do vehicle to load, so you could vacuum your car off a 3-pin adapter and things like that. And also it's set up for vehicle to gridness as well. Now in terms of performance, they're all the same motor. It's a front wheel drive car with 201 horsepower and it's got lots of cladding around the motor. So you shouldn't hear any motor whine when you boot it, which we're going to do in a minute when it's, when I finish driving this and when someone doesn't think I'm dogging in the car park. Is it stopped blooming raining yet? The interior of the EV3 is very relaxing. It's designed to feel like a living room here. If you get these seats, you can lie them all the way back so you can have a little nap while it's charging. Not that you need to lie back for really more than half an hour to get from 10 to 80%, but look at this cabin. Yeah, it might just look like an EV9 has been shrunk down, but there is some clever stuff going on here that you don't get even in Kia's big 6 or 7 seater SUV. But we'll start with the obvious stuff. You've got two 12-inch infotainment screens with that little 5-inch one in the middle, which is permanently on, so you can try and use your climate control, but actually you can't see it when you're driving. That's a bit of a design flaw shared with every other Kia that's got that. But anyway, you get cloth seats in entry-level Air models. This GT line model gets the artificial leather. The GT line also gets a wireless phone charger down there, and you get lumbar support in the seat as well. But yeah, it's just nice and spacious. This car is actually wider than all of its competitors, and it's got the same wheelbase as Sportage, as I probably said. So there's just loads of room for like storing stuff. Down there you've got this clever space with some, rustly coat. Down there you've got your bottle and cup holders and the wireless charger. You've got USB-Cs there. This little thing here, which has got some buttons on it for the parking systems, actually slides out. The idea being that you can recline the seat and then do some work on there with your laptop or change a nappy. Nothing under there though, and that armrest doesn't actually adjust for angle. I like the amount of cloth in here. That's all very lovely. And you've also got this light up strip there which changes colour depending on your driving modes. But it also flashes when it thinks you're going to crash and things like that, and when you're speeding and when there's a speed camera. And actually, having been a passenger in this car, it's a bit annoying. Yeah, if you've got a kid sitting in the front, it's like, Mummy, you're speeding. Mummy, you're about to set a speed camera off. Or Daddy, you're about to crash. Let's not be sexist. Over here on the doors, you've got the controls for the heated seats, the ventilated seats and things like that. The ventilated seats, I think, come in GT Line S trim in the UK. It's all a bit confusing because I'm in a funny European model. Now let's talk about some things that you can't see. One thing that you can't see is Kia is very proud of their new aircon pump system thing. They're calling it a thin HVAC unit, and basically this normally sits in the passenger footwell and sorts out the aircon, but they've made it smaller so you get 6 centimetres more footroom on the passenger side of the car while still having full airconness. They're just very proud of it, and to be fair, if it gives you more room in a small car, I think that's to be celebrated. Kia's also made a bunch of tweaks to the infotainment software that you don't get in the EV9 or the EV6. First up, Kia CarPay. You can set the car up with your Kia account. It's linked to Parkopedia, so you can automatically pay for your parking from within the car, which is great news, really. You're also going to get, in the next couple of months, ChatGPT built in, so you can ask it silly questions, make YouTube videos about that sort of thing. And also, you're going to get Disney Plus and Netflix and things like that and YouTube, so you can watch stupid videos in your car while you're charging it, which I know Tesla's been doing for years, but Kia is doing it now as well. And finally, Kia has improved the EV route planner in the sat-nav, so it can have a dynamic state of charge. It doesn't always want you to charge to 100% when you stop and things like that. It's a bit more sensible and gives you a more realistic interpretation of how you're going to get to where you're going without getting a flat battery. Now, I don't think Kia's completely perfected the interior. It is really, really nice, but there are a few little quibbles. These door bins aren't the biggest. Yes, it's got space for one bottle, but then that's your lot because this is too thin to even hold a Coca-Cola bottle. And you've also got this QR code here. You might think that's a useful thing. It takes you to a website, tells you about the car. It doesn't. It takes you to a website where Kia will show off about how much of this car's interior is made from recycled whales and things like that, which is obviously a good thing, but I don't think you need a website link in your card to tell you about it. And the glove box is a decent size. And yeah, that's about the lot for the front of the EV3. Did I say EV9 earlier? This is an EV3. I'm a professional. Now for the really interesting bit of the video where I sit in the back of the car. Now the door handles are up here, which is quite cool. And also the EV3's doors actually do open impressively wide. It's not quite Nissan Qashqai 90-degree wide, but that'll be great for fitting child seats in. Now, I am indeed 6'3". That's my driving position. And yeah, I've got a little bit of knee room there. I've got some foot room under the seats, which is rare for an EV. And I've actually got more than enough headroom. Even if I lean all the way back, my head doesn't touch the ceiling because it's not a silly fake coupe. This one has got heated rear seats. They've all got a flat floor, so the middle seat is actually kind of useful. You've got USB-Cs on the back of the front seats. These are quite chunky seats, which is probably why I haven't got loads of knee room. But it's just very pleasant back here. Now, Kia's trying to make a point that this EV3, although it is reasonably small, it could be your only family car. And actually, do you know what? I'm inclined to agree. I've got a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, and they are little darlings, obviously, because they're like me. But their child seats would fit in here with no problems. But crucially, the boot is big enough as well to make this your only family car. It'd be viable. It wouldn't be the biggest family car. It wouldn't really do massive airport runs for a 2-week all-inclusive to Thailand while your other half looks at other people at the bar and you kind of wonder what you're doing with your life. But I think it would be okay. I think it'd be fine, actually, as your only car. I think I've waffled on enough, don't you? Other features I forgot to talk about. It's got big door bins, it's got a centre armrest with cup holders, and the ISOFIX points are really easy to get to. Right, hopefully you can still hear me, because it's got blowier than Monica Lewinsky's LinkedIn profile, but the back end of the EV3, it looks like a Kia, doesn't it? But the big news here, it's got quite a big boot. 460 litres. You only get the electric boot on GT Line S models in the UK, so if it wasn't a GT Line S, you'd be doing that manually. But it's a really big boot. It's about the same as a Hyundai Kona electric, and it's just basically one of the biggest in its class. Now, you've got this adjustable boot floor, so you can have a flat load lip and do that carpet stroking thing that we car journalists like to do, or you can drop it down with all your expensive camera gear on it. I've done that perfectly. Or you can seamlessly drop it down for even more boot space and to open up the full 460 litres. It's great. It's got a parcel shelf. Should we see if the parcel shelf fits under the boot floor? Not a chance. Now, if you are to storage what I am to puddings, there's always room for more, and the EV3 has got a 25-litre frunk, so you can store your charging cables in there and not take up precious boot space. Hooray! Also says Kia here, and there's a fireman's hat there. I think that's if your car catches fire. Should we see what's in there? There you go, you can disconnect all the stuff there. Brilliant. Probably put that back. Don't want to die. Right, sorry for the rustly coat, but it's wet out there. I want to stay sort of dry. You drive the EV3 by pressing a button down here, then twisting that into D. That's very familiar. Then you can adjust your nappy changing table, and away you go. Now, this car has one or two little flaws when it comes to driving it. First of which is rear visibility. Out the rear corners is actually pretty poor, even by modern car standards. You've got massive thick pillars at the back of the car, which when you're changing lanes is just a little bit, a little bit troublesome. But otherwise, it's an easygoing car to drive. You can even turn off the speed limit warning bong by holding the volume button on the steering wheel for a couple of seconds. Right, let's talk about performance. 201 horsepower is about 7.5 seconds to 60. It basically doesn't really matter which battery you pick. It's 0.01 different or something. The handling is kind of okay. It does tread a really good line between sporty handling and comfortable ride quality. And yes, This is a modern car where I'm not gonna whinge about the way it smothers bumps, because it does a really, really good job of smoothing out all of the little crevasses on this Portuguese mountain road, and around town it's super smooth as well. Now, that's because, boring engineering stuff coming up, it's got some smart frequency reactive responsive dampers or something, basically. The shock absorbers on this car have got a little mechanical valve in them, and when you're doing slow speed stuff, it smooths out the ride, and when you're going a bit faster, it firms things up. That's basically what you need to know. But look, speed bump doesn't matter. I went over some cobbled streets in this earlier, and you heard them, but you didn't feel them. And I think part of that's also down to the fact this is quite light for an EV. It's 1.8 tons, but really, this has got, I would say, the best ride of any EV at this price point. It is really good. Performance, you might think 7.5 seconds, front wheel drive, wet roads, it's going to be a bit rubbish, but actually once you're rolling and you put your foot down, it's more than quick enough. It really is. Does wheel spin quite a lot in the wet, but it sorts it out and you're not in any danger or anything like that. All right, some other points of note. You don't get much motor whine. The sound deadening and the extra stiffening they've put on the electric motor has really killed the noise. Look, just can't hear the motor. It's really good. You're not getting any sci-fi whine or anything like that. It's just nice and refined and quiet in here. And it's about as refined at motorway speeds as its bigger brothers, the EV6 and the EV9. So yeah, comfortable, tick, quiet, tick. It's a good family car from that point of view. Another thing that's changed for the EV3 is how the regenerative brakes work. So it's still controlled using the paddles up and down. If you put it into I-pedal, that's one pedal driving mode, that now works in reverse as well. And it also remembers what level you left it on when you turn the car off and back on. And apparently if you hold the right pedal, it goes into auto regen, which is basically an idea nicked from BMW's electric cars, which is really good, which uses all of its sensors and mapping data and all the rest of it to know what it should be doing with the regeneration. So if the speed limit's going to change, it will give you a bit more and slow you down to the right speed. I love that system in BMW. It works just about as well in this. So yeah, well done Kia. You've made an electric car that is actually just bliss to use. It's not exciting, but it's not annoying, and it's not jiggling me. It's brilliant, really. It's really brilliant in a very ordinary sort of way, and in a way that few other EVs have managed. But anyway, that all sounds very sensible and very good. We should perhaps go back to me for a conclusion on what is shaping up to be one of the best electric cars I've driven that normal people might be able to afford. You know, don't worry about heating your house or inheriting wealth from your parents. You might actually be able to buy one of these, maybe. Now, you're not going to be able to hear me because it's very, very windy here, but the EV3 has one impressive feature you don't find on many modern cars, and that is it's got a rear window wiper. Yeah! Now, excuse the phone filming. There's one thing I forgot to mention while I was filming the bulk of this video, and that is the Kia Niro EV. That costs a little bit more than the EV3, but it comes with a smaller battery. It's got less range. It's a bit bigger on the outside, but I think from memory it's smaller on the inside. Now, obviously that's available as a hybrid and plug-in hybrid as well, but it does make you wonder why you would go and buy a Niro EV over one of these. I think Kia's going to have to do something about that. If you walk into a Kia dealer looking for a smallish electric car, buy this over the Niro EV. Hello, sorry, it's me again. I'm editing this video in my hotel room a few hours after driving the EV3. I realised I forgot to mention the efficiency. Now, the one I was driving said I'd average 6.5 kilometres per kilowatt hour. And I've just done some Googling. That's over 4 miles per kilowatt hour, I think. And I was kind of driving it like a ham-fisted, lead-footed journalist. So that's pretty efficient. That's pretty good. And some quicker maths suggests that's about 330 miles of real-world range, based on how I was driving. You might have guessed by the intro to this video that I'm bored of reviewing electric cars that cost too much money and don't really go far enough to be viable alternatives to petrol or diesel cars, and it feels like the game hasn't changed in a long time. This does though. This does change the game in several areas. It's more affordable than its rivals, it's got more kit as standard than its rivals, and it can go further than its rivals. It's also, finally, an EV SUV that rides well. It's got a great balance of softness and handling, does everything you want it to. It hasn't annoyed me a single iota. And I even don't mind the way it looks. So this is probably the most impressive, affordable electric family car I've driven ever. So well done, Kia. 7-year warranty, all that usual stuff. It's really bloody good. I'm gonna give it 9.5 Tim Roadies out of 10. Don't think I've ever done a 10, and I don't think any car is perfect. So yes, the drawbacks for this are this green looks a bit rubbish. Thank you for watching. If you've liked this video, please hit like, subscribe to the channel, go down to the comments, and would you please do me a massive favor? Tell me what the Korean word for "you look like a tangerine, you ball bag." Thank you, goodbye.